The untold legacy of Greek warriors and Buddhist monks. What if I told you that 2.300 years ago, Greek warriors, renowned for their unmatched strength and military conquests, laid down their weapons not in defeat, but in pursuit of inner peace? Imagine hardened soldiers, their lives shaped by the chaos of battle, trading swords and shields for meditation and mindfulness. It sounds like the beginning of a legend, doesn't it? But this isn't just a myth, it's one of the most remarkable untold stories in human history. Welcome to the path to Buddhist wisdom, where we uncover the hidden connections between cultures, philosophies, and the timeless quest for enlightenment. Today, we're diving into a forgotten chapter of history, how Greek warriors under Alexander the Great encountered Buddhist monks in India and how their lives, and the course of human history, were forever transformed. Think of it, the same Greeks who worshipped Zeus and debated the nature of reality with Aristotle were now sitting at the feet of Buddhist monks, learning to conquer not lands, but their own minds. Their story isn't just an intersection of East and West, it's a profound lesson about the power of ideas to reshape identities, cultures, and beliefs. But how did these two worlds collide? How did the fierce ambition of Alexander's army meet the serene detachment of Buddhist philosophy? And why does their story, lost to the sands of time, still hold lessons for us today? Join us on this journey as we uncover the remarkable fusion of Greek and Buddhist thought, a journey filled with warrior kings, wandering monks, and revolutionary ideas that still influence the world we live in. By the end of this video, you'll see how the legacy of these lost Greek Buddhists isn't just a relic of history, it's a reminder that truth, wisdom, and understanding transcend all borders. Now, let's step back in time and begin this extraordinary tale. The Clash of Worlds, when Greek warriors met Buddhist monks. Picture this, the year is 326 BCE. Alexander the Great's army, 40,000 strong, stands on the borders of India after carving a path of conquest through Persia and beyond. These were soldiers who had never tasted defeat, men whose swords and shields had become symbols of unstoppable power. But here, at the edges of the known world, they encountered something that no weapon could conquer: ideas. In the forests near the city of Taxila, Greek soldiers stumbled upon a sight that left them bewildered: men who owned nothing, wore nothing, and wanted nothing. The Greeks called them gymnosophists, or naked philosophers. These monks, stripped of worldly possessions, displayed an unshakable calm and mastery over both body and mind. One monk pressed hot iron to his skin without flinching. Another stood motionless on one leg from sunrise to sunset. To the Greeks, these feats defied comprehension. To the monks, they were merely expressions of inner discipline and detachment. Among these extraordinary monks was Dandamis, a sage whose wisdom even Alexander couldn't ignore. When summoned to the great conqueror's court, Dandamis declined, replying that he lived in harmony with nature and feared nothing, not even death. His response baffled Alexander's men, accustomed to seeing kings tremble before their ruler. But these monks offered something far greater than physical feats. They revealed a way of life that challenged everything the Greeks believed. Here were men who claimed that true power wasn't found in conquering others, but in mastering oneself. They rejected fear, anxiety, and desire, living with a simplicity that gold and glory could never buy. Pyrrho's transformation, from soldier to philosopher. Amid Alexander's army was a soldier named Pyrrho, a painter turned warrior. What Pyrrho witnessed in India would change him forever. For months, he studied the practices of these monks, absorbing their teachings and observing their way of life. The central idea that captivated Piro was simple yet revolutionary. Suffering doesn't come from the world around us, but from our own judgments and attachments. When Piro returned to Greece, he brought with him a radical new perspective. He questioned every assumption, even the act of questioning itself. His newfound philosophy merged the systematic reasoning of Greek thought with the Buddhist idea of detachment from fixed beliefs. This synthesis gave birth to Greek skepticism, a school of thought that sought peace through suspending judgment and embracing uncertainty. Imagine the ripples of this transformation. Soldiers who once debated strategies of conquest now asked profound questions about life and happiness. If true power came from mastering oneself, what was the point of war? If contentment lay in desiring nothing, why fight for wealth or glory? These ideas spread quickly through the ranks of Alexander's men, sparking philosophical discussions in military camps and even influencing Alexander himself. The great conqueror, known for his relentless ambition, spent hours questioning the monks about life, death, and the nature of the soul. Though history may remember Alexander for his empire, his time with these monks revealed a side of him few knew, a seeker of wisdom. A new kind of fusion, the birth of Indo-Greek Buddhism. As Alexander's empire fractured and Greek settlers established kingdoms in Central Asia, a remarkable cultural exchange began. In regions like Bactria and Gandhara, Greek rulers governed lands rich in Buddhist traditions. Here, Greek philosophy and Buddhist teachings collided, giving rise to a fusion that would shape both traditions for centuries. At the heart of this synthesis was a remarkable transformation. Greeks didn't just adopt Buddhist ideas, they infused them with their own artistic and intellectual traditions. Greek sculptors, trained in the classical style, created the first ever images of the Buddha. These statues, carved from dark schist stone, followed the precise mathematical proportions of Greek art, blending spiritual symbolism with human beauty. The wavy hair, pure Apollo, the serene smile, classical Greek perfection. Yet, the elongated earlobes and the ushnisha, the bump on the Buddha's head, added layers of Buddhist meaning. These artistic innovations weren't mere decorations. They solved a profound philosophical problem: how to depict a man who taught that the self doesn't exist. Greek sculptors answered by creating faces that radiated both humanity and transcendence, showing what lies beyond the self. This wasn't just art, it was the beginning of a new language, one that spread across Asia. As Greek-style Buddha statues traveled along the Silk Road, they inspired local artists in China, Korea, Japan, and Southeast Asia. Each region adapted the style, but the Greek essence, the balance between realism and symbolism, remained. The seeds of a lasting legacy. The influence of this Greek-Buddhist fusion extended far beyond art. In the cities of Taxila and Iconium, Greek philosophers debated Buddhist monks daily, exploring questions that bridged two worlds. What is the nature of reality? Can truth be permanent? These dialogues, recorded on ancient manuscripts, reveal a deep mutual respect between the two traditions. Greek kings like Menander, who ruled vast territories from Afghanistan to northern India, became patrons of Buddhism. Known as Milinda in Buddhist texts, Menander's famous dialogues with the monk Nagasena became a cornerstone of Buddhist philosophy. The fusion of Greek logic and Buddhist thought not only enriched both traditions but also laid the foundation for a new kind of kingdom, one built on ideas rather than conquest. Even as the Indo-Greek kingdoms faded, their legacy endured. Buddhist monasteries bore Greek architectural features. Meditation halls resembled Greek theatres, and ancient texts written in Greek letters preserved Buddhist teachings for future generations. The universal lesson: This remarkable synthesis of Greek and Buddhist thought wasn't just a historical anomaly, it was a testament to the power of open-mindedness. When two seemingly opposing cultures met, they didn't clash, they created something new. Something greater than the sum of their parts. Their story teaches us that wisdom knows no borders. It transcends languages, traditions, and even time. And in a world often divided, their example reminds us of the profound beauty that emerges when we embrace differences with curiosity and respect. In the next part, we'll explore how this fusion influenced not only ancient civilizations but also modern practices like mindfulness, meditation, and the global search for enlightenment. Stay with us as we uncover the continuing impact of this extraordinary legacy. The continuing fusion, Greek philosophy meets Buddhist wisdom. As the Indo-Greek kingdoms flourished, the dialogue between Greek and Buddhist thinkers deepened. This wasn't just a cultural exchange, it was the birth of a new way of understanding the world, one that merged Greek rationalism with Buddhist introspection. At the heart of this fusion lay a simple yet profound question: what is the nature of suffering? And how can we overcome it? For the Greeks, suffering was often seen as a result of external forces, wars, politics, or the whims of the gods. In contrast, the Buddhist monks taught that suffering arose from within, rooted in desire and attachment. This idea fascinated the Greeks. Philosophers trained in Aristotle's methods of logical reasoning began exploring Buddhist concepts like dukkha, suffering, and sunyata, emptiness, finding parallels to their own theories while also confronting ideas that challenged their worldview. Greek skepticism, a philosophy transformed by Buddhism. One of the most remarkable outcomes of this exchange was the transformation of Greek skepticism. Pyrrho, who had studied under Buddhist monks during Alexander's campaigns, became the first Greek philosopher to incorporate Buddhist teachings into his philosophy. His central idea was revolutionary for the Greek world: happiness comes not from controlling the world but from accepting it as it is. Pyrrho taught that all beliefs should be suspended because they are inherently subjective. This echoed the Buddhist idea that attachment to fixed views leads to suffering. But Pyrrho took it further, suggesting that by suspending judgment, one could achieve ataraxia, a state of inner peace and freedom from disturbance. His students described him as a man who lived with complete detachment, immune to the chaos of life around him. While some stories about Pyrrho were likely exaggerated, such as his alleged indifference to oncoming wagons, they illustrate the radical shift in thinking he inspired. His philosophy, rooted in Buddhist principles, became a cornerstone of Greek skepticism and influenced thinkers for generations. Bactria and Gantara, the cradle of cultural fusion. Nowhere was the Greek Buddhist synthesis more visible than in the regions of Bactria and Gantara, where Greek settlers established thriving cities. These cities became melting pots of ideas, art, and spirituality, where Greek temples stood alongside Buddhist stupas, and philosophical debates filled the air. One of the most significant contributions from this period was the creation of the first Buddha statues. For nearly 3 centuries after the Buddha's death, his followers had avoided depicting him in human form, instead using symbols like an empty throne or a lotus flower to represent his teachings. But Greek sculptors, with their mastery of human form and proportion, introduced a groundbreaking idea: to show the Buddha as a serene, enlightened human figure. These early Buddha statues bore unmistakable Greek influences. The wavy hair resembled that of Apollo. The flowing robes mirrored those of Greek philosophers. And the tranquil expressions captured the Greek ideal of divine beauty. Yet, these statues also carried deeply Buddhist elements, such as the Ushnisha symbolizing wisdom and the elongated earlobes recalling the Buddha's princely origins. This artistic innovation didn't just revolutionize Buddhist art, it gave Buddhism a visual identity that could be recognized across cultures. As these statues traveled along the Silk Road, they inspired local adaptations in China, Korea, Japan, and Southeast Asia, spreading both Buddhist teachings and Greek artistic principles. The Milinda Panha, a dialogue across worlds. One of the most enduring legacies of the Greek Buddhist encounter is the Milinda Panha, or the Questions of King Milinda. This ancient text recounts a series of dialogues between King Menander I, Milinda, a Greek ruler of Bactria, and Nagasena, a Buddhist monk. Their conversations explored profound philosophical questions, blending Greek logical inquiry with Buddhist insights. For example, when King Milinda asked how a person could be reborn if the self is impermanent, Nagasena used the analogy of a candle. Just as one flame lights another without being the same flame, he explained, so too does life continue without a permanent self. This analogy resonated with Greek philosophical traditions, which often used metaphors to convey abstract ideas. These dialogues weren't just theoretical exercises, they reflected the intellectual curiosity and mutual respect between Greek and Buddhist thinkers. They also demonstrated how seemingly opposing worldviews could complement each other, offering deeper insights into the nature of existence. The spread of Greek Buddhist ideas. As Greek Buddhist kingdoms declined, their ideas continued to spread, influencing cultures far beyond their borders. Buddhist monks carried Greek artistic techniques and philosophical concepts along the Silk Road, where they encountered new traditions and adapted to local contexts. Meanwhile, Greek philosophers who had been exposed to Buddhist teachings brought these ideas back to the Mediterranean world. In Alexandria, the intellectual hub of the Hellenistic world, traces of Buddhist influence began to appear in philosophical writings. Scholars like Plotinus, a key figure in Neoplatonism, explored ideas that paralleled Buddhist teachings, such as the dissolution of the self and the pursuit of inner tranquility. Some historians even suggest that early Christian monastic practices, with their emphasis on silence, meditation, and detachment, were shaped by the Greek-Buddhist exchange. Modern echoes, the enduring legacy of fusion. The story of the Greek-Buddhist encounter isn't just a historical curiosity, it's a reminder of how ideas can transcend cultural and temporal boundaries. Today, we see their legacy in practices like mindfulness, which combines Buddhist awareness with Greek systematic observation. The philosophical debates that began in Taxila and Gandhara continue to inspire discussions about the nature of reality, consciousness, and the human condition. Even modern neuroscience owes a debt to this ancient fusion. When researchers study the effects of meditation on the brain, they're asking questions that Greek philosophers and Buddhist monks first posed over 2 millennia ago. The techniques they examine, like observing thoughts without judgment, are direct descendants of the methods developed in Greek Buddhist monasteries. A lesson for today. In a world often divided by cultural and ideological boundaries, the story of the Greek Buddhist synthesis offers a powerful lesson: wisdom knows no borders. When we approach differences with curiosity and openness, we create opportunities for growth, understanding, and transformation. As we continue this exploration in the next part, we'll uncover how the fusion of Greek and Buddhist thought not only shaped ancient civilizations but also laid the groundwork for modern ideas about art, philosophy, and spirituality. Stay with us as we dive deeper into this extraordinary legacy and discover what it means for us today. Art as a universal language, Greek influence on Buddhist imagery. Art is often the silent storyteller of history. And in the case of Greek-Buddhist interactions, It became the bridge between two worlds. Before Greek influence, Buddhist art refrained from depicting the Buddha in human form, instead symbolizing his teachings through abstract motifs, an empty throne, a lotus flower, or his footprints. But when Greek sculptors encountered Buddhism, they brought with them a tradition that revered the human figure as the ultimate expression of divinity and perfection. The creation of the first Buddha statues. Imagine a sculptor in Gandhara, carefully chiseling away at dark schist stone. With each strike, the face of the Buddha emerges, calm, serene, and imbued with a sense of otherworldly wisdom. The wavy locks of hair, reminiscent of Greek gods like Apollo, frame his face. The flowing robes drape in folds that mirror the naturalistic style of Greek sculpture, while the eyes, half closed in meditation, convey a profound sense of inner peace. These statues weren't mere works of art, they were revolutionary. For the first time, the Buddha was depicted in human form, embodying both the Greek ideal of physical beauty and the Buddhist concept of enlightenment. The mathematical precision of Greek art, the same proportions used to design the Parthenon, was now being applied to create an image of spiritual perfection. The fusion didn't stop at aesthetics. Greek sculptors integrated Buddhist symbols into their work, creating a visual language that conveyed complex philosophical ideas. The Ushnisha, or cranial bump, symbolized wisdom. The elongated earlobes, a reminder of the Buddha's princely past, emphasized his renunciation of material wealth. The robes, though Greek in style, concealed the body beneath, representing freedom from physical desires. The spread of Gandharan art. As these statues were crafted in the Gandhara region, they began to travel along the Silk Road, carried by merchants, monks, and pilgrims. Each region they reached adapted the style to fit its own cultural context while retaining the Greek influence. In China, for instance, the Buddha's face became softer and rounder, reflecting Chinese artistic sensibilities. In Japan, the statues took on a more refined and minimalist design. Yet, the essence of Greek artistry, its emphasis on proportion, balance, and human expression, remained. This artistic exchange wasn't one-sided. As Buddhist imagery spread westward, Greek art absorbed new elements. Scenes of meditation and spiritual teaching began to appear in Greek-style frescoes and pottery. The blending of these traditions created a shared visual language that transcended cultural boundaries. Bamiyan and beyond, the monumental legacy. One of the most striking examples of this fusion was the creation of the colossal Buddha statues in Bamiyan, Afghanistan. These towering figures, carved into the cliffs, stood as testaments to the enduring legacy of Greek Buddhist art. Their serene expressions, flowing robes, and intricate details bore the unmistakable mark of Gandharan influence. Though the statues were tragically destroyed in recent times, their legacy lives on through archaeological findings and historical records. Traces of Greek pigments in the original paint suggest that even the color palette used was influenced by Hellenistic traditions. In smaller artifacts, the fusion is equally evident. Clay lamps from this era depict Hercules on one side and the Buddha on the other, symbolizing the harmony between two seemingly disparate worlds. Kitchen pottery found in Gandharan sites combines Greek patterns with Indian cooking residues, illustrating how deeply this cultural synthesis permeated daily life. Philosophy in stone, the meaning behind the art. These statues weren't just decorative, they carried profound philosophical messages. For example, the Buddha's half-closed eyes symbolized the balance between awareness and detachment, a core Buddhist principle. The serene smile captured the Greek ideal of eudaimonia, or flourishing, blending it with the Buddhist concept of inner peace. Greek sculptors also introduced a sense of dynamism to Buddhist art. While earlier representations of Buddhist symbols were static, Gandharan statues often depicted movement, such as the graceful turn of the Buddha's head or the gentle sway of his robes. This conveyed the idea that enlightenment wasn't a fixed state but a dynamic process, a journey of constant growth and transformation. The artistic evolution of Buddhism. The impact of Greek Buddhist art wasn't confined to statues. In regions like Taxila and Iconium, meditation halls were designed with Greek-style columns and theatres, blending functionality with aesthetics. This architectural fusion created spaces that reflected both the grandeur of Hellenistic design and the contemplative serenity of Buddhist practice. Cave temples in India, such as those at Ajanta, showcase murals that merge Greek naturalism with Indian narrative styles. The interplay of light and shadow in these paintings echoes Greek techniques, while the themes of compassion and detachment remain distinctly Buddhist. In Southeast Asia, the influence continued to evolve. Thai temples incorporated the symmetry and geometric precision of Greek architecture, while Tibetan mandalas reflected Greek principles of proportion and balance, creating sacred spaces that resonated with both traditions. A global legacy, the modern influence of Greek Buddhist art. The legacy of this artistic fusion can still be seen today. Every Buddha statue in a temple or garden carries the fingerprints of those early Greek sculptors who dared to depict enlightenment in human form. Their work not only spread Buddhism across Asia but also established a visual identity that continues to inspire millions. In modern art, echoes of Gandharan influence can be found in sculptures, paintings, and even contemporary mindfulness branding. The serene expressions and meditative poses of Gandharan Buddhas have become symbols of peace and introspection in a chaotic world. Even beyond art, the philosophical implications of this fusion remain relevant. The question that Greek sculptors faced, how to depict a man who taught that the self doesn't exist, continues to challenge artists and thinkers alike. Their solution, a face that reflects both humanity and transcendence, reminds us of the universality of the human quest for meaning. A monumental achievement. The story of Greek Buddhist art is a testament to the transformative power of cultural exchange. It shows us that when two worlds meet with curiosity and respect, they can create something far greater than the sum of their parts. In the hands of Greek sculptors and Buddhist monks, stone became more than just a medium, it became a philosophy, a language, and a bridge between civilizations. In the next part, we'll delve into the intellectual exchanges that took place in ancient universities like Taxila, where Greek logic met Buddhist philosophy, sparking debates that would shape the course of history. Stay tuned as we continue uncovering this extraordinary legacy. The Great Debates, where Greek logic met Buddhist philosophy. The bustling city of Taxila, a vibrant hub of trade and scholarship, became the epicenter of one of history's most fascinating intellectual exchanges. Here, Greek philosophers and Buddhist monks met not on battlefields, but in the halls of ancient universities. These encounters weren't just conversations, they were debates that challenged the foundations of both traditions, pushing the boundaries of human understanding. Taxila, a melting pot of ideas. Taxila, located in modern-day Pakistan, was a city unlike any other, strategically positioned at the crossroads of major trade routes. It drew merchants, scholars, and thinkers from across the ancient world. Its renowned university attracted students eager to study everything from astronomy and medicine to philosophy and spirituality. Among these scholars were Greek philosophers, brought to the region by Alexander's conquests, and Buddhist monks who had turned Taxila into a center for their teachings. The Greeks, with their tradition of systematic reasoning and debate, found themselves in awe of the Buddhist approach to knowledge. Buddhist monks, in turn, were intrigued by Greek logic and the rigorous methods of inquiry it offered. What followed was an intellectual fusion that would reshape both traditions. Philosophical clashes and common ground. The debates between Greek philosophers and Buddhist monks were intense and profound. One recurring topic was the nature of reality. Greek thinkers, influenced by Plato and Aristotle, often argued for the existence of permanent, unchanging truths. In contrast, Buddhist monks, guided by the concept of anicca, impermanence, maintained that everything in existence was in constant flux. Imagine the scene: a Greek philosopher stands before a group of monks, gesturing emphatically as he argues that the soul is eternal. A monk responds with a calm smile, asking questions that unravel the philosopher's assumptions. If the soul is permanent, the monk might ask, why does it change as we grow, learn, and evolve? The resulting dialogue wasn't about winning or losing, it was about exploring the depths of truth. Another area of contention was the concept of sunyata, emptiness. Greek philosophers, accustomed to defining reality in concrete terms, struggled with the Buddhist idea that phenomena have no inherent essence. The monks, however, used Greek logical methods to explain their position, demonstrating how attachment to fixed views leads to suffering. These exchanges weren't just theoretical. They had practical implications for how people lived their lives. Greek soldiers, inspired by these debates, began to question the very purpose of conquest and glory. Some even adopted Buddhist practices, meditating in their tents and striving for inner peace rather than external victories. The evolution of Greek skepticism. Greek skepticism, which emerged as a major philosophical movement, owed much to these debates. Piro, who had studied under Buddhist monks during his time in India, brought back ideas that challenged the core assumptions of Greek thought. His emphasis on suspending judgment and accepting uncertainty mirrored Buddhist teachings on detachment from fixed views. But Greek skepticism wasn't a direct copy of Buddhist philosophy. It was a fusion that retained the systematic questioning of Greek tradition while incorporating the Buddhist focus on inner peace. This synthesis created a new approach to philosophy, one that encouraged individuals to find tranquility in the face of life's uncertainties. Aristotle meets the Buddha, the logical bridge. One of the most fascinating aspects of this intellectual exchange was the integration of Aristotle's logic into Buddhist teachings. Aristotle's methods of categorization and deductive reasoning found a new home in the monasteries of Taxila. Monks used these tools to refine their arguments about causation, impermanence, and the nature of suffering. For example, Buddhist teachings on dependent origination, the idea that all phenomena arise from interdependent causes, were explained using Greek logical structures. Monks demonstrated how Aristotle's principles could be adapted to support Buddhist concepts, creating a bridge between two seemingly different worlds. This synthesis didn't just enrich Buddhist philosophy, it also influenced Greek thought. The concept of sunyata challenged Greek philosophers to rethink their assumptions about the nature of existence. Some even began to incorporate Buddhist ideas into their own writings, blending Eastern and Western perspectives in ways that would shape the future of philosophy. The Dialogues of King Milinda. The Milinda Panha serves as a shining example of this intellectual fusion. King Menander I, known as Milinda, a Greek ruler of Bactria, engaged in a series of philosophical dialogues with the Buddhist monk Nagasena. Their conversations, preserved in ancient texts, explored profound questions that remain relevant to this day. One famous exchange centered on the nature of the self. When King Milinda asked how rebirth was possible if there was no permanent self, Nagasena used the analogy of a chariot. The chariot, he explained, is made up of many parts, wheels, axles, and so on. Remove the parts, and there's no chariot. Similarly, the self is a collection of ever-changing elements, with no permanent essence at its core. These dialogues didn't just influence Buddhist philosophy, they also left a lasting impact on Greek thought. Menander himself became a patron of Buddhism, and his kingdom became a center for the fusion of Greek and Buddhist ideas. A legacy of inquiry. The debates and dialogues that took place in Taxila and beyond weren't just historical events, they were milestones in the evolution of human thought. They showed that seemingly opposing traditions could come together to create something new, something greater than the sum of their parts. Greek logic and Buddhist introspection, when combined, offered a more comprehensive approach to understanding the world. Together, they explored not only the external realities of life but also the internal truths of the mind and spirit. This intellectual synthesis laid the groundwork for modern disciplines like philosophy, psychology, and mindfulness. The enduring influence of Greek Buddhist philosophy. Today, we can still see the echoes of these ancient debates in our own lives. The practice of mindfulness, now a cornerstone of modern psychology, combines Buddhist awareness with Greek systematic observation. The philosophical exploration of the self, once a subject of debate in Taxila, continues to shape discussions in neuroscience and cognitive science. Even in popular culture, the legacy of Greek Buddhist philosophy endures. From films that explore the nature of reality to books that encourage mindfulness and self-discovery, the ideas born from these ancient encounters continue to inspire and transform. Looking ahead, as we move forward in this journey, we'll uncover how the fusion of Greek and Buddhist thought extended beyond philosophy and art to influence spirituality, science, and even global culture. Stay with us as we explore the next chapter of this extraordinary story and discover what it means for us today. The spiritual exchange, Greek rationality and Buddhist mysticism. As the Greeks immersed themselves in Buddhist teachings, the spiritual exchange went beyond debates and philosophical inquiry, it became deeply personal. For many Greeks, Buddhism offered something their own traditions lacked, a practical path to inner peace. At the same time, Greek rationality introduced new methods of understanding and articulating Buddhist mysticism. Together, they created a spiritual synthesis that transcended the boundaries of East and West. Greek warriors turned seekers. For some Greek soldiers and settlers, the teachings of the Buddha were transformative. These were men who had lived by the sword, their lives dictated by the chaos of battle. Yet, in the presence of monks who lived without fear, anxiety, or desire, they found themselves questioning everything they had known. One poignant example is Pyrrho, who, after returning to Greece, renounced the ambitions of war and conquest. Instead, he sought a life of simplicity and contemplation, inspired by the Buddhist emphasis on detachment. Imagine the inner turmoil of a warrior who once wielded power over life and death, now sitting in meditation, learning to conquer his own mind. Many others followed similar paths. Some stayed behind in Indian monasteries, becoming monks themselves. Others carried Buddhist practices back to their homelands, integrating them into their own traditions. These individuals became living bridges between two worlds, embodying the fusion of Greek and Buddhist spirituality. Buddhist mysticism meets Greek rationality. The Greeks, with their love for systematic reasoning, brought new perspectives to Buddhist teachings. For instance, the concept of nirvana, often described in mystical and poetic terms, was analyzed and articulated using Greek logic. This didn't diminish its spiritual significance, but rather made it more accessible to those accustomed to rational thought. In turn, Buddhist mysticism enriched Greek spirituality. While Greek philosophy had long explored the nature of the soul and the cosmos, it often lacked practical methods for achieving spiritual growth. Buddhism filled this gap with practices like meditation and mindfulness, offering the Greeks tools to experience the truths they had long theorized about. This mutual enrichment wasn't limited to intellectuals. Ordinary people, merchants, artisans, and farmers found meaning in the fusion of these traditions. Greek settlers in regions like Gandhara began incorporating Buddhist rituals into their daily lives, while Indian Buddhists adopted elements of Greek culture, such as theatrical performances to convey spiritual teachings. Greek Buddhist spiritual practices. One of the most striking outcomes of this exchange was the development of new spiritual practices that combined Greek and Buddhist elements. For example, meditation techniques. Greek philosophers who had studied under Buddhist monks brought meditation practices back to their communities. These practices often involved observing one's thoughts and emotions without judgment, a method that combined Buddhist mindfulness with Greek introspection. Rituals and ceremonies. In Greek Buddhist monasteries, rituals often blended elements of both traditions. A Greek-style symposium might be followed by Buddhist chanting, creating a harmonious balance between celebration and contemplation. Theatrical storytelling. Greek drama, with its emphasis on moral and philosophical themes, found a new purpose in Buddhist storytelling. Plays were adapted to teach Buddhist principles, making complex ideas more relatable to diverse audiences. These practices not only enriched the spiritual lives of those who participated, but also created a sense of unity among people from different cultural backgrounds. The legacy of spiritual synthesis. The spiritual exchange between Greeks and Buddhists left a legacy that continues to resonate today. Many modern spiritual practices, from meditation retreats to philosophical counseling, draw on the principles established during this period. For example, the emphasis on direct experience over dogma, a hallmark of Zen Buddhism, can be traced back to the Greek Buddhist dialogues in Taxila. Similarly, the practice of using logical paradoxes to challenge assumptions, common in both Zen koans and Greek philosophy, reflects the deep interconnection between these traditions. Even the modern mindfulness movement owes much to this synthesis. When we practice mindfulness, we're engaging in a tradition that began with Buddhist monks and was enriched by Greek rationality. This fusion has given us tools not only to understand our minds, but also to transform them. A personal connection to the universal. The story of Greek Buddhist spirituality is a reminder that our spiritual journey is both deeply personal and universally shared. Whether we're meditating in a quiet room, reflecting on philosophical questions, or participating in rituals that connect us to something greater, we're part of a tradition that spans centuries and continents. As we explore the final chapters of this story, we'll uncover how the fusion of Greek and Buddhist thought shaped the arts, sciences, and even the foundations of modern society. Stay with us as we bring this extraordinary tale to a close and reflect on its meaning for the world today. The scientific and cultural impact of Greek-Buddhist fusion. The meeting of Greek and Buddhist minds didn't just transform art and philosophy, it laid the foundation for advancements in science, medicine, and cultural understanding. As we uncover the final layers of this incredible legacy, it becomes clear how the intellectual and spiritual synthesis of these traditions continues to shape the modern world. Greek rationality meets Buddhist holism in medicine. One of the most fascinating outcomes of the Greek-Buddhist exchange was its influence on medicine. Greek physicians, influenced by the teachings of Hippocrates, approached health as a balance of physical elements. In contrast, Buddhist practices emphasized the interconnection of mind and body, advocating for mental clarity and emotional balance as essential components of well-being. Imagine the synergy: Greek doctors adopting Buddhist mindfulness techniques to treat anxiety and stress, while Buddhist monks incorporated Greek anatomical knowledge to understand the physical effects of meditation. This holistic approach foreshadowed modern practices like mindfulness-based stress reduction, MBSR, and psychoneuroimmunology, which explore the relationship between mental health and physical well-being. In ancient monasteries, medical texts blending Greek and Buddhist principles were compiled and shared along trade routes. These manuscripts became the basis for healing practices in regions as diverse as Persia, Tibet, and China, bridging East and West in the pursuit of health and harmony. Astronomy and mathematics, a shared quest for knowledge. Greek astronomers, who had developed advanced theories about the cosmos, found common ground with Buddhist monks who studied celestial patterns to time spiritual festivals. Together, they exchanged knowledge that enriched both traditions. For example, Greek astronomical techniques were used to refine Buddhist calendars, ensuring precise timing for rituals and meditative practices. Buddhist monks introduced the Greeks to the concept of cyclical time, challenging linear notions of history and inspiring new philosophical interpretations of the universe. This collaboration wasn't limited to theory, it had practical applications, such as the creation of sophisticated star charts and tools for navigation. The fusion of Greek mathematical precision with Buddhist conceptual frameworks contributed to advancements that would influence scholars for centuries. The birth of a shared cultural identity. Beyond science and philosophy, the Greek-Buddhist synthesis created a shared cultural identity that transcended borders. In the bustling cities of the Indo-Greek kingdoms, art, language, and daily life reflected this blending of traditions. Bilingual inscriptions. Ancient monuments often featured inscriptions in both Greek and local Indian scripts, symbolizing the harmony of two cultures. Shared myths and stories. Greek and Buddhist storytellers adapted each other's narratives, creating new tales that resonated with diverse audiences. Greek heroes like Hercules appeared alongside Buddhist sages, embodying universal values like courage and compassion. Culinary fusion. Greek settlers introduced olives, wine, and bread to Indian cuisine, while adopting spices and vegetarian dishes from Buddhist traditions. This culinary exchange became a metaphor for the blending of ideas and lifestyles. These cultural exchanges weren't just historical, they remind us that diversity is a strength, and collaboration can lead to extraordinary creativity. The enduring legacy in modern times. The story of Greek-Buddhist fusion isn't just a relic of the past, it's a living legacy that continues to influence the world. Consider the following. Mindfulness practices, techniques like meditation, body scanning, and breath awareness combine Greek systematic observation with Buddhist spiritual discipline. Educational frameworks. Modern universities, with their emphasis on interdisciplinary learning, reflect the intellectual environment of Taxila, where scholars from different traditions exchanged ideas. Global philosophy. The questions debated by Greek philosophers and Buddhist monks about the self, the nature of reality, and the meaning of life remain at the heart of contemporary philosophical inquiry. Even in popular culture, echoes of this fusion can be seen in films, books, and art that explore themes of enlightenment, impermanence, and interconnectedness. The lessons of this extraordinary synthesis remind us that wisdom knows no boundaries and that collaboration can lead to breakthroughs that change the course of history. A call to action: join us on this path. As we bring this incredible journey to a close, let's take a moment to reflect on what we've learned. The Greek-Buddhist synthesis shows us that the most profound transformations happen when we approach differences with curiosity, respect, and an open heart. It reminds us that the quest for truth is universal, and that every culture has something valuable to offer. If you've been inspired by this story and want to uncover more hidden connections between ancient wisdom and modern life, join us here at the Path to Buddhist Wisdom. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell to stay connected. By subscribing, you'll become part of a growing community of seekers exploring timeless lessons for a better future. Thank you for walking this path with us. Together, we can continue uncovering the wisdom that unites us all. Until next time, may you find peace, clarity, and purpose on your journey.